So Alan, I would love to know the history of this painting.
In Kyoto, there's a street called Teramachi, the Street of Temples. And there's a well-known tea shop on that street. I picked up a brochure from that tea shop, and it had all their teas in cups. So you could see the different colors of each tea. I would gaze at this every day, and one day I said, well, why don't I just make them, the cups of tea, large, like they're big pools of water. The thing about this painting is that a lot of them plumb a kind of subconscious memory.
Okay.
I just happened to get on the train in Berlin and sit next to this young Polish guy. So we went to Warsaw together, and he took me to his mother's apartment. And then he said, well, let's go to Krakow. My father lives there. And his father had a house in the outskirts of Krakow where there were trees and fields. The Northwest painter William Ivey talked about subconscious memory in a way I liked, in that he said he once completed a painting, and then he looked at that painting and he said, oh, now I know where this painting came from. And it came to him after he finished the painting. So that's what I mean about a subconscious memory. Something clicks and it tells you, oh yeah, that was the time that I was in Krakow at night looking at the fields and the trees.
I'm curious, you're talking about a subconscious memory, so you must put yourself in a sort of state to access that.
Painting is a real tactile exercise, so you kind of just start with lines. On a good day, you let the painting take you where it wants to go, and you try to follow as, unhindered as possible.
Mm-hmm. What happens on a bad day?
I have a lot of collage material.
And tell me about your ink.
The traditional way is to have ink sticks that you rub with on an inkstone with water until it gets dark enough.
Yeah.
And then if you're dealing with a massive space, you might want to use the instant ink they call bokuju, which is, concentrate. I tend to cover large spaces with the instant ink, but then when I want more tonality, shades within monochrome, I use the ink sticks because there's a variety of ink sticks. Some have a brownish tint, some have a bluish tint, some have a purple tint. So I'll use the ink sticks and splatter some of those different tonalities within the larger black framework.
You're using tools of the ancient past. I mean, clearly you're doing what we would call an abstract, a very contemporary painting, but out of a tradition. I just would love to hear you talk a little bit about what that tradition means to you and how you talk to it.
Yeah, I never would call myself a brush painter. I'm a painter, but I love using the materials, and I think in the 3 or 4 years I lived in Kyoto, I was able to brush shoulders with some of the masterpiece paintings and some of the great brush painters. And of course I like the brush painters who are a little more eccentric or a little more exuberant or wild with their brush.